The freezing winds of Velkar 9 howled through the giant alien city like angry spirits. Snow covered the metal streets, and cold blue lights flickered across the massive buildings above. Every month, citizens from different alien races gathered in the central bonding market, one of the largest public mating events in the outer galaxy. The market was loud and full of life. Music echoed through the crowded streets. Rich families proudly showed their daughters to wealthy males. Beautiful alien women wore glowing dresses and expensive jewelry while merchants shouted from every direction. But far away from the bright lights and happy crowds, one lonely girl sat silently in the darkest corner of the market. Nobody looked at her twice. Her name was Lyra. Lyra was small, thin, and painfully quiet. Her silver-blue skin carried faded scars from years of abuse inside orphan labor camps. One side of her long silver hair partially covered a damaged, glowing eye. Her old dark clothing looked worn and torn compared to the beautiful females around her. Most people believed she was cursed. Some aliens whispered terrible stories whenever they walked past her. "That girl brings bad luck. She is broken. No male would ever choose someone like her." Lyra lowered her head every time she heard those words. She tried pretending the cruel voices did not hurt anymore, but deep inside, every sentence felt like another knife cutting into her heart. She had lived alone for almost her entire life. Her parents died many years ago during the Human-Krill War. After their deaths, government officers threw Lyra into the orphan system of Velkar 9. The camps were cold, violent, and unforgiving. Food was limited, punishments were brutal. Nobody protected weak children there, especially not weak girls like Lyra. Over the years, she learned to survive quietly. She learned not to trust smiles. She learned not to hope for kindness. Because kindness never lasted. Tonight was her final chance to escape a terrible future. According to Velkar law, orphan females without partners before adulthood would be sent away to mining colonies beyond the outer moons. Those colonies were dangerous places filled with criminals, freezing storms, and deadly machines. Almost nobody survived for long there. The giant clock tower above the bonding market slowly moved closer to midnight. Lyra stared at the glowing numbers with fear growing inside her chest. Nobody had approached her all evening, not one person. Around her, other females happily left the market beside smiling partners while families celebrated loudly. But Lyra remained alone. A quiet tear rolled down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away before anyone noticed. Suddenly, loud whispers spread through the market crowd. People began stepping backward nervously. The music slowly stopped. Heavy footsteps echoed across the frozen metal street. A human had entered the market. Humans rarely visited Velkar 9 anymore after the war. Many aliens still feared them. Others hated them. The tall human male walked calmly through the crowd wearing a dark military coat covered with snow. A deep scar crossed the left side of his face. His cold blue eyes carefully studied everything around him. The air itself felt tense as he passed. Nobody dared block his path. "Is that really a human soldier? What is he doing here? He looks dangerous." The human ignored the whispers. His name was Captain Elias Ward, former war hero, former battlefield commander, and one of the deadliest human soldiers still alive. Elias slowly walked through the bonding market without speaking. His expression remained cold and unreadable. Then suddenly, he stopped. His eyes locked onto the lonely alien girl sitting alone in the corner. Lyra immediately looked down at the ground, expecting him to laugh like everyone else. An alien merchant nearby smirked cruelly. "That female is worthless human," the merchant said loudly. "Even her own species refuses to take her." Several people laughed quietly. Another alien male crossed his arms. "You should choose someone better. That broken girl is nothing but trouble." But Elias said nothing. Instead, he slowly walked toward Lyra. The crowd became silent again. Lyra's heart started beating faster as the human stopped directly in front of her. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Elias noticed the scars on her hands, the fear in her damaged, glowing eye, the way she flinched whenever someone moved too quickly near her. His expression slowly changed, not disgust, not pity, anger, real anger. "Who hurt you?" Elias asked quietly. Lyra froze completely. The entire market fell silent. Nobody had ever asked her that question before. Not once, not in the orphan camps, not in the city, not in her entire life. For the first time in years, someone looked at her like she was a real person instead of garbage. Lyra slowly lifted her trembling eyes toward the human soldier, and deep inside her broken heart, something impossible began to appear. The entire bonding market remained silent after the human's question. "Who hurt you?" Lyra could not answer. Her body stayed frozen as thousands of eyes stared at her and Captain Elias Ward. Cold wind moved through the snowy streets while glowing lights flickered above the crowd. Nobody understood why a human soldier was standing beside the most unwanted girl in the city. An older alien female suddenly stepped forward with an angry expression. "Human," she said sharply, "leave that girl alone. She belongs to nobody." Several others nodded in agreement. "She is damaged. She is weak. She has no future." Lyra slowly lowered her head again, already expecting Elias to walk away like everyone else always did, but the human remained standing beside her. His cold blue eyes moved across the crowd carefully. The scar on his face looked even darker beneath the market lights. Then, without saying a word, Elias removed his heavy military coat and gently placed it around Lyra's shaking shoulders. The crowd gasped in shock. The warm fabric immediately protected her from the freezing wind. Lyra held the coat carefully as if she could not believe it was real. Nobody had ever given her warmth before, especially not a stranger. "You'll freeze sitting here," Elias said calmly. Lyra stared at him silently. Even now, part of her believed this had to be some kind of cruel joke. An alien merchant nearby laughed loudly. "You humans are strange," he mocked. "Why protect useless trash?" Elias slowly turned toward the merchant. The smile instantly disappeared from the alien's face. The former soldier did not raise his voice, but something dangerous appeared inside his eyes. "Careful," Elias said quietly. The merchant immediately looked away. The crowd became nervous. Everyone could feel it. This human was not ordinary. After a few moments, Elias crouched beside Lyra and opened a small metal container from his travel bag. Warm steam rose into the freezing air. Food, real food. The delicious smell instantly caught Lyra's attention. Her stomach tightened painfully. She had not eaten properly in almost 2 days. Elias noticed the hunger in her eyes and slowly held the container toward her. "You should eat." Lyra hesitated. Inside the orphan camps, food always came with pain. Kindness always had a hidden price. Her trembling hands remained frozen in place. Elias understood immediately. "Nobody will hurt you," he said softly. Something about his voice felt different. Calm, honest. Slowly, Lyra reached forward and carefully accepted the food. She ate quietly while trying not to cry in front of everyone, but tears still formed in her damaged, glowing eye. The warm meal felt almost unreal. Around them, the crowd whispered nervously, "This is embarrassing. A human choosing that girl. He must feel pity for her." But Elias ignored every word. Instead, he looked toward the giant clock tower above the market. Only 30 minutes remained before midnight. Then Lyra would officially belong to the labor colonies forever. Elias frowned slightly. "Where will they send you?" he asked. Lyra's voice was barely above a whisper. "The outer mining moons." Several nearby aliens laughed darkly. "Then she won't survive long. Most workers die there within months." Lyra's hands tightened around the food container. Fear filled her chest again. She already knew the truth. The mining colonies were death sentences. Suddenly, Elias stood up. The movement surprised everyone nearby, including Lyra. The human reached into his pocket and removed a small silver identification chip. Gasps spread across the market. "Military command clearance. High level. Very high level." Elias placed the chip directly onto the registration table beside the market officers. "I'm claiming her," he said calmly. The entire market exploded into chaos. "What? He cannot do that. She's an orphan." One officer quickly stood up in panic. "Human, you do not understand. That girl has no value. Choosing her would damage your reputation across multiple systems." Another officer leaned closer and lowered his voice nervously. "There are healthier females here, better females." But Elias did not even look at them. His eyes stayed focused on Lyra. "I didn't ask for better," he replied coldly. Lyra could barely breathe. Nobody had ever chosen her before. Nobody had ever wanted her. For years, she believed the cruel voices around her were correct. Broken, worthless, unwanted. But now this dangerous human soldier stood before the entire city and claimed her without hesitation. The market officers quickly scanned Elias' military chip. Then their faces changed completely. Fear appeared in their eyes. One officer swallowed hard. "Captain Elias Ward," he whispered. The name spread through the crowd instantly. Some aliens stepped backward in shock. Others looked terrified. Everyone knew the stories. The human war hero who survived impossible battles during the human Krill War. The soldier called the ghost of Titan Station. A man feared across half the galaxy. And somehow he had chosen the weakest girl in the entire market. Lyra stared at Elias in disbelief. Why? Why would someone powerful choose someone like her? Before she could ask, loud warning alarms suddenly echoed across the city. Red emergency lights flashed above the streets. The market crowd panicked immediately. Then a terrified voice shouted from the distance, "Security forces are coming!" Elias instantly turned toward the sound. His expression darkened, because deep inside he already knew the truth. Someone important did not want Lyra leaving this market alive. Red emergency lights flashed across the frozen streets of Velkar 9, while warning alarms echoed through the night sky. Panic spread across the bonding market. Aliens quickly grabbed their families and rushed away from the center roads. Market stalls closed within seconds. Heavy security drones flew overhead, scanning the crowd with bright red searchlights. But Captain Elias Ward did not move. His sharp blue eyes carefully watched the armed security forces approaching from the far side of the market. Something was wrong, very wrong. Lyra stood beside him, trembling beneath the warm military coat wrapped around her shoulders. Fear filled her chest as old memories returned. She recognized those black armored soldiers, Government Enforcement Division, the same people who controlled the orphan camps, the same people who punished children without mercy. One of the soldiers pointed directly toward Lyra. "There she is!" Lyra's face instantly lost color. "No," she whispered weakly. Elias noticed the pure terror in her damaged, glowing eye. That fear was not normal. It was the fear of someone hunted for years. The human slowly stepped in front of her protectively. Within seconds, armed soldiers surrounded the market entrance. Their leader, a tall alien officer with silver armor and glowing red eyes, walked forward confidently. His expression carried cold amusement. "Captain Elias Ward," the officer announced loudly, "you are interfering with official government property." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Property?" he repeated coldly. The officer pointed toward Lyra. "That orphan belongs to the Velkar Authority." Lyra lowered her head immediately like she already expected those words. Property, not person, property. Elias felt anger rising inside him again. "She's not property," he said quietly. The officer smirked. "You humans know nothing about our laws." Several soldiers aimed their weapons toward Lyra. The crowd watched nervously from a distance. Nobody dared. Everyone feared the Enforcement Division. The officer extended his hand toward Elias calmly. "Hand the girl over, Captain. This does not concern humanity." For several silent seconds, snow slowly fell between them. Then Elias spoke. "No." The single word instantly changed everything. Weapons powered on across the market. Blue energy lights illuminated the dark streets. Lyra's breathing became faster. She knew what happened to people who resisted the government. Nobody survived long. The officer's smile disappeared. "You are making a serious mistake." Elias remained calm. "I've made worse." Suddenly, one nervous soldier moved too quickly and grabbed Lyra's arm violently. The moment his hand touched her, something exploded. A massive shockwave of blue energy burst from Lyra's body like a violent storm. Boo! The frozen street cracked apart instantly. Nearby soldiers were thrown backward through market stalls. Security drones lost control and crashed into buildings above. Bright energy flooded the air around Lyra as glowing symbols briefly appeared across her silver-blue skin. The entire market froze in shock. Even Lyra herself looked terrified. She stumbled backward, staring at her own trembling hands. I didn't mean..." Then the energy suddenly vanished. Silence filled the market. Smoke slowly drifted through the freezing air. Elias stared at Lyra carefully. That was not normal alien technology, not even close. The alien officer slowly stood from the broken ground, fear now visible in his glowing red eyes. "Capture her!" he screamed angrily. "Now!" Every soldier immediately opened fire. Elias reacted instantly. The former war commander grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her behind cover as energy blasts destroyed the market walls around them. "Run!" he ordered. Lyra could barely keep up as Elias guided her through narrow, frozen alleyways behind the city. Explosions echoed behind them while security forces chased them across the snowy streets. For the first time in years, Lyra felt completely overwhelmed. Nothing made sense anymore. Why did strange energy come from her body? Why was the government so desperate to capture her? And why was this human risking his life for her? As they finally reached an abandoned transport tunnel beneath the city, Elias sealed the metal door behind them. The sounds of soldiers slowly faded outside. Heavy silence filled the dark underground station. Lyra stood there breathing heavily while soft blue lights flickered above. Then suddenly she collapsed. Elias quickly caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin felt dangerously warm. Glowing blue energy moved beneath the scars on her arms like living light. The human carefully helped her sit against the wall. "What are you?" he asked quietly. Lyra looked frightened. "I don't know," and she was telling the truth. For her entire life, strange things happened around her whenever she became scared or emotional. Machines sometimes stopped working near her. Lights flickered around her body. Once inside the orphan camp, a metal door exploded after guards attacked her. But every time it happened, officials punished her severely and called her dangerous. Monster, freak, curse. Tears slowly filled Lyra's eyes again. "I tried to hide it," she whispered painfully. "I didn't want anyone to see." Elias remained silent for a moment. Then he noticed something strange near the base of her neck. A symbol, very small, almost invisible beneath her skin. The human's expression darkened immediately. He recognized it. Years ago, during the human Krill War, military intelligence reports mentioned rumors about an ancient alien energy source hidden somewhere in the outer systems. A power capable of changing the galaxy forever. Very few people believed the stories were real. But Elias suddenly remembered one important detail. The symbol connected to those reports was identical to the mark beneath Lyra's skin. At that moment, the truth finally hit him. This girl was never abandoned because she was broken. She was abandoned because powerful people feared what she carried inside her. And now, the entire galaxy would begin hunting her. The abandoned transport tunnel trembled as distant explosions echoed through the frozen underground walls. Above them, security forces were still searching the city. But deep beneath Velkar 9, silence slowly returned. Lyra sat quietly against the cold metal wall while soft blue energy moved faintly beneath her scarred skin. Her hands still trembled after the explosion inside the bonding market. Captain Elias Ward remained standing nearby, watching the tunnel entrance carefully. His military instincts told him something dangerous was coming, and fast. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally, Lyra broke the silence. "You should leave me." Her voice sounded weak and tired. Elias looked toward her. "The government will never stop hunting me now," she continued quietly. "If you stay near me, they'll kill you too." The human crossed his arms. "I've survived worse." "But why?" Lyra asked suddenly. The question carried years of pain behind it. "Why are you helping me?" Elias did not answer immediately. Instead, he slowly walked toward an old broken window overlooking the underground rail system. Snow drifted through the cracks while distant warning sirens echoed far above. For a moment, the former soldier looked lost in old memories. Then he finally spoke. "During the war," Elias said quietly, "I watched entire worlds burn." Lyra listened silently. "I watched innocent people abandoned because leaders decided they were acceptable losses." His voice became colder. "Children died while powerful people protected themselves." The human looked back toward her. "I promised myself something after the war ended." Lyra lowered her eyes slightly. "I promised I would never ignore suffering again." The words hit her harder than expected. Nobody had ever spoken to her like this before. Nobody had ever looked at her with understanding instead of disgust. Before Lyra could answer, a small device inside Elias' coat suddenly activated. A holographic screen appeared in the dark tunnel. The face of an older human male flickered above the device. "Elias," the man said urgently, "what the hell is happening on Velkar 9? Lyra immediately became nervous. The older man noticed her beside Elias and frowned deeply. "Who is that?" Elias remained calm. "Her name is Lyra." The older man's expression changed instantly after hearing the name. "You found the girl," he whispered. Lyra froze completely. "Found? What does that mean?" She asked quietly. The human on the screen hesitated. Then Elias spoke first. "She's connected to Project Genesis." The moment those words left his mouth, the entire tunnel felt colder. Lyra stared at him in confusion. "I don't understand." Elias slowly crouched in front of her. "Years ago," he explained carefully, "your parents worked with scientists from multiple star systems on a classified project." "The ancient energy source?" Lyra whispered. Elias nodded slowly. "They discovered something buried beneath Velkar 9 long before the war started." The hologram flickered again as the older man continued speaking. "Your parents believed the energy was not a weapon," he explained to Lyra. "They believed it was alive." Lyra's heart began beating faster. "Alive? That's impossible." "Not impossible," Elias replied quietly. "Just dangerous." The older man looked extremely serious now. "After your parents refused to hand their research to military leaders, they disappeared." Lyra's breathing stopped for a second. "They were murdered," Elias said coldly. Silence filled the tunnel. Lyra felt like the ground disappeared beneath her feet. For years, officials told her her parents died during the war, but they lied. Everything had been a lie. Tears slowly rolled down her face as painful memories flooded back into her mind. Her mother smiling softly. Her father carrying her through bright laboratory halls, then screaming, gunfire, darkness. "I remember," Lyra whispered weakly. Suddenly, sharp pain exploded inside her head. Blue energy flashed violently across the tunnel walls. Boo! Metal pipes burst apart overhead. The hologram device lost signal instantly. Elias grabbed Lyra before she collapsed completely. Her glowing, damaged eye now burned with bright blue light. Fragments of strange memories flooded her mind. Ancient ruins. Massive stars, unknown voices whispering through darkness. Then one final image appeared clearly before her eyes, a hidden structure beneath the frozen planet, and inside it something sleeping. Lyra gasped sharply as the visions ended. Elias stared at her carefully. "What did you see?" She looked terrified. "There's something under this planet," she whispered. At that exact moment, a deafening explosion shook the tunnel entrance. Krash, metal doors flew across the underground station. Armed soldiers stormed inside from every direction. But these were not normal security forces. Their black armor carried the symbol of the Galactic Dominion, the most powerful military organization in the outer systems. At the center of the soldiers stood a tall female commander with pale white skin and glowing golden eyes. Commander Saris Vale, one of the deadliest hunters in the galaxy, her cold gaze locked directly onto Lyra. "There you are," Saris said calmly. Elias immediately moved in front of Lyra protectively. Saris smiled slightly. "Captain Ward," she said, "you truly have no idea what that girl is." The soldiers raised their weapons. Blue targeting lasers filled the tunnel. Lyra's fear returned instantly, but this time something else awakened with it. The strange energy beneath her skin began glowing brighter than ever before. The tunnel lights flickered violently. Snow outside the broken entrance suddenly started floating upward against gravity. Commander Saris slowly stopped smiling. For the first time, uncertainty appeared in her eyes, because she realized something terrifying. The frightened orphan girl standing before them was no longer weak, and whatever power slept inside her was beginning to wake up. The underground tunnel shook violently as blue energy filled the air around Lyra. Snow floated upward, metal walls cracked apart. Even the armed soldiers of the Galactic Dominion stepped backward nervously. Commander Saris Vale narrowed her glowing golden eyes as she studied the frightened alien girl standing behind Captain Elias Ward. For the first time in many years, Saris felt uncertain. The energy surrounding Lyra did not look like normal technology. It felt ancient, alive, dangerous. Elias slowly moved one hand toward the weapon attached to his belt while keeping his body between Lyra and the soldiers. "Don't," Saris warned calmly. "You cannot win this fight, Captain." Elias remained expressionless. "I've heard that before." The soldiers tightened their grip on their rifles. Blue targeting lasers covered Elias' chest, but the human soldier did not move. Behind him, Lyra struggled to breathe as strange whispers echoed inside her mind again. The voices were distant, ancient, unknown. And somehow they were calling her name. "Lyra!" She pressed both hands against her head in pain. The glowing symbols beneath her skin became brighter. Commander Saris noticed immediately. Her calm expression suddenly changed. "She's activating faster than expected," Saris whispered. Elias heard her. "Activating what?" Saris slowly looked toward him. "You truly know nothing, do you?" Before Elias could respond, the tunnel lights exploded above them. Boo. Darkness swallowed the underground station for one terrifying second. Then blue light erupted from Lyra's body like a rising storm. The energy wave smashed soldiers into the walls. Weapons malfunctioned instantly. The floor beneath everyone cracked apart while massive metal support beams bent like paper. Elias shielded his eyes against the blinding light. In the center of the tunnel, Lyra slowly lifted off the ground. Her silver-blue hair moved weightlessly around her face while glowing energy surrounded her entire body. The frightened orphan girl looked completely different now. Powerful, beautiful, terrifying. The soldiers panicked immediately. "She's losing control. Fall back." Commander Saris raised her arm sharply. "No," she shouted. "Do not fire at her." But one terrified soldier ignored the order. He aimed directly at Lyra and pulled the trigger. The energy blast never reached her. It froze in midair. Everyone stared in horror. The glowing projectile slowly turned backward and fired straight back at the soldier. Crash! The explosion threw him across the tunnel wall instantly. Silence followed. Lyra looked down at her trembling hands in fear. "I didn't do that." But deep inside, she knew the truth. Something inside her had responded automatically, something ancient. Commander Saris slowly stepped forward despite the chaos around her. "Listen carefully, Lyra," she said calmly. "Your parents were not ordinary scientists." Lyra's glowing eyes locked onto her. "They discovered the core beneath Velkar 9, Saris continued. "An ancient living energy older than every civilization in this galaxy." Elias frowned deeply. "The core bonded with your DNA before you were born," Saris explained. "That power inside you was never supposed to awaken naturally." Lyra's heart pounded harder. "No, you are the first successful host," Saris said quietly. The words hit Lyra like a nightmare. Host, not person, not girl, host. Suddenly, painful memories flashed through her mind again. Cold laboratories, scientists arguing, her mother crying, her father shouting at military officers. Then blood, screaming, gunfire. Lyra gasped and nearly collapsed. Elias immediately caught her before she hit the ground. The human held her carefully while the violent blue energy slowly calmed around them. "She's terrified," Elias said coldly. "And you people still treat her like an object." Saris looked at him seriously. "You think this is about cruelty?" she asked. "Captain, entire planets could die if she loses control." The tunnel became silent again. Lyra looked up weakly. So everyone hated me because they were afraid? Nobody answered. That silence hurt more than the truth itself. For years, she believed she was ugly, broken, worthless, but the real reason was far worse. People feared what lived inside her. Tears rolled down her cheeks again. I never wanted this. Elias looked at her quietly. I know. And somehow those two simple words mattered more than anything else, because he still looked at her the same way, not with fear, not with hatred, but with understanding. Suddenly, loud warning alarms echoed across the tunnel again. Commander Saris activated a holographic scanner beside her arm. Her expression immediately darkened. We have a problem. What now? Elias asked. Saris looked directly at Lyra. The core is awake. Before anyone could speak, the entire ground beneath the city suddenly trembled. A deep ancient sound echoed from somewhere far below Velkar 9, almost like something massive was breathing beneath the planet itself. KRA? The tunnel walls cracked apart violently. Far above the city, giant blue beams of light erupted into the night sky. Citizens screamed in panic across the planet. Commander Saris slowly looked upward in horror. It's starting! Lyra's glowing eye widened. The whispers inside her mind became louder than ever before. Then one final voice echoed clearly inside her head. Find us! Suddenly, a hidden section of the underground wall opened by itself. Ancient symbols glowed brightly inside the dark passage beyond. Cold air rushed outward from the unknown tunnel. Elias stared at the opening carefully. What is that place? Lyra looked toward the darkness ahead with fear growing inside her chest. But deep inside, she already knew. Somewhere beneath Velkar 9, the truth about her parents was waiting. And whatever had awakened below the planet was waiting for her too.